I was the problem. And Taylor Swift wrote a song about it. I'm like, I love her. I'm the problem, it's me. Yeah, I'm the problem. I mean, I can sit in these huge meetings, like I'm going to New York next week for a $19 billion tunnel project. And I'm sitting with these mega companies. I walk in the room and they're like, she knows what's going on. Yeah, I sure do. And you need to sit down because it's not your money that you're spending, it's the taxpayers' money. So this is what you're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. If you don't like it, go get another job.
I'm Art Blanchford, and this is Life in Transition, a podcast about making the most of the changes we're given. As a married father of 3 teenagers, a longtime global business executive and adventurer, I've been through hundreds of transitions in my life. Many have been difficult, but all have led to a depth and richness I could never have imagined. You'll get to hear all about them on this podcast so that together we can create more love and joy in our lives, no matter what transitions we are going through. Well, welcome back to another episode of Life in Transition. I'm super excited to have my new friend, Shelley Armato, with us today. Shelley is probably the most awarded businesswoman I've ever met. She is founder 18 years ago of My Smart Plans and CEO of that company today. And My Smart Plans is a tech-enabled solution for construction industry that has now, check this out, $23 billion of contracts completed, 99.9% on time and on budget, which is amazing, and 2,600 projects total with 0 litigation. So it's really amazing what you've done in that space. And Shelley, what I'm most excited about is not even that. It's like your heart for people, for your kids, for your grandkids, even the interactions that we've had, how you want to change the world and make everything better around you. And that's really amazing. So thank you so much for taking the time to join us on Life in Transition today, and most welcome, Shelley.
Thank you. My pleasure. I love it.
Thank you so much. So we're going to jump right in. What would you consider to be one of the most significant, meaningful transitions that you've made in your life, Shelley?
So I love when we did our pre-interview, which is kind of funny to me because I mean, people ask me to be on their podcast. I'm like, okay, no big deal. People are like, well, how many people are listening? I don't know. I don't care. I'm going to keep telling my story to whoever wants to hear it. So for me, life has been, like most people, an adventure. Some people call it struggle. I call it an adventure. Life is happening for me, not to me. Some of the things I've had to have a neutral understanding of because it doesn't make sense. But like when we did our pre-interview, I was 50 when I had been on this quest to find out what happened to me, like what happened. I started counseling at 19. I've done everything, alcoholism, sex addiction. I mean, I've tried everything to alleviate this thing that happened. I couldn't figure out what it was. So at 50, I had spent a year with Tony Robbins. I went to Date with Destiny. I mean, like I have literally, if you tell me an event, I've probably been there, whether it's singing bowls, sound baths, I've done it all. Because I couldn't figure out like what happened. So anyway, at 50, I did what was called a earliest memory meditation. It seems so harmless. Like, okay, what's my earliest memory? I already knew it was going to be Mrs. Beasley. It was my Christmas. I opened up and I got my favorite doll. It was like, that was going to be my earliest memory. Oh, hail to the no, that was not my earliest. Anyway, so I'm in this thing, and my earliest memory was my babysitter's husband. His name is Roger. Roger, his game with me was to manipulate my clitoris. I call it clitoris manipulation because if someone says, well, as a child I was raped, I said this one time to this one man, he's like, well, that's virtually impossible. And I'm like, you're an idiot.
Right.
So I'm like, no, actually, this is what happened to me. It's not that I was raped. I was stimulated as a child as a game with a freaking psycho man. And the thing with the clitoris, it is connected to the pleasure principle of your brain. So seeking pleasure is like that happened at 4. And I was like, how do I get this pleasure again? This was like, I guess I've never done the hard drugs, but I mean, some drugs, like it's this pleasure principle. And so like, I spent my life trying to find that thing. So it was alcohol and all those things. And at 50, I had the complete recall. In the meditation, I'm shaking telling the story. So sorry.
No, it's okay. It's
my
real,
body
Shelley.
reacting.
It's amazing that you're willing to share this. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, you know what? Screw him. He is not going to take my power. This is on him, not me. But I didn't know that till I was 50. So
Wow.
I carried his shame. I carried the responsibility. I carried the guilt. I carried all the shit like in this bag with me that and when I would meet someone, like, let me show you my bag before we have a relationship, because everything about me is this. And anyway, so in that meditation, it was not only the name recall, it was his pox on his face, the kind of glasses he wore. I smelled him. I could smell, like, everything went boom in my face. And the first thing he did was take my breath away. And I was like, and I mean, I don't recommend this for people. This is not where I should have had this complete recall, because I had no support. It was me in a group of how many ever 1,000 people going. So I jumped up, I ran in the bathroom, and I just was like, oh my God, what? I finally caught the, what. So anyway, this girl was in the bathroom with me, and she's like, okay, let's just walk. I don't even know her name, but for some reason, God found it fit that I would find this person in the women's bathroom. And I'm sorry, I cried too, still talking about this. I'm fine. It's fine.
It's okay.
Anyway, and she like walked me through the process so that I could go back into the room. And then now I'm 60, so I've spent 10 years. I still have tears about it. I'm still working through that, but I don't mind crying. I don't mind having this emotion that says, look, you've been through some pretty tough stuff. And then I went on and changed an industry. Then I went on and said, hey, to the world, hey, if this happened to you and you don't know what happened to you, pretty good chance this is the result of that. And what your family does with those things is going to be the power of your life. My family chose to deny. My family chose to make me the villain because now she's a truth teller. What are we going to do with her? But you get me into a situation, I will always tell you the truth. Not everyone likes that idea, but fire me. I'm going to tell you what I see, and I'm going to move swiftly forward. So now I'm in this position of like transforming an industry. And I have a seventh sense about me that is from that event. I have this ability to see past mountains. I have this ability to like drill through and like, oh,
hey, Shelley, you said a seventh sense.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that. I mean, obviously we all heard forever, women all have the sixth sense, right? This intuition, right? So what is the seventh sense?
Well, the seventh sense is I can see through mountains. Like building a business. I mean, we started our business in a garage with $15,000. We reinvented an industry. We had an event happen to us in my husband's business that took all of our wealth. And I went from being a Disneyland mom to being, lucky if I could go to World of Fun without a season pass. Like, dude, you just lost it all. And in construction, that's pretty typical. The men that are in the business, the risk is so great, but they become familiar with that. It's like the recluse spider.
Okay.
I'm familiar with this thing.
So they become desensitized to it and comfortable, and then it takes them down at some point.
Yes. Whether it takes them down emotionally, they lose their family, they lose their total sense of peace, they lose their wealth, they lose their identity, they don't know who their friends are. Drinking is the new game to figure out who's going to tell the truth and be the liar. The documents tell it all. You don't have to use those tools anymore. So I have seen so many amazing things. I hope one day that it'll be a Netflix series because it is so Netflix worthy.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Of this from a garage and 15,000 to, literally bootstrapping my company for it's almost 19 years. We had a call this morning and this company's like, look, we want to be a part of what you're doing. How do we, we're like, well, okay, listen, this is what we're doing. We just met with the Corps of Engineers. We just presented to LAX. It's a $30 billion project. We're against Oracle. And they're like, Oracle's terrible. How do we start with you? We're like, okay. I'm like, I had to turn off my camera. I'm like, can you hang on just a second?
That's amazing, Shelley.
I'm in my Lululemon right now. Like everybody else is dressed up to be the part. And I'm like, no, I'm just an ordinary Barbie changing the world. So my seventh sense is being able to like drill through mountains. In business, things are because they're so close to you, you're like, I can't see past that. I have this ability to see past that mountain, around it, drill through it, whatever. I call myself living in the valley. So I'm always in the valley of resources where a lot of people want to live on the mountaintop. That's where there's no oxygen. There's nothing. It's barren. In the valley is where all of the abundance is. Like that's where the fish go to spawn and that's where the deer go to drink water. It's in the valley. To live in the valley is so much fun. So that's my seventh sense.
Okay. To having a sense of what's seeing the forest for the trees squared or something along that side. Cool. And I love seeing like what you're talking about your business and you're probably used to seeing it because it's behind you all the time, but I'm looking at the tiles on your wall behind you and seeing
Yeah.
the things that you represent: transformation, disruption, transparency, strength, and kindness, right? At the same time, defense,
Yeah.
sustainability. I mean, it's really cool to see what you have created out of an expression of who you are meets the market need at the same
Yeah.
time.
Well, and it intimidates people. I mean, in construction, the general contractor, he holds the medallion like the taxi cab drivers. And you get in and you're like, well, I need to go to 55th and 5th. And they're like, yeah, well, I'll take you where I'm going to take you and drop you off. And lucky if you get there. So we're like, no, this is what the contract says. This is how we're going to get there. And this is, so it's like the complete opposite of what happens in the industry. But it's so much fun because I have this ability to walk into situations because of what happened when I was a little girl. I'm like, oh, you cannot hurt me any worse. I mean, like, what are you going to do to me? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And
So
I'm
you're
like,
not worried about what people will think about you, whether you belong in the room, whether the
no.
project is too big or too scary. Like, none of this stuff bothers you after you've had this transition when you were 50 to understand what happened to you and how you lived through that.
Yeah.
And now you have this incredible power and self-assuredness because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, just like one of my things says she needed a hero, so she became one. I mean, it's like I needed a hero. I was a single mom. Of course, the men in my life, you know, before I realized what happened to me, saw me as a victim. Like they saw me as like, because I played that role. I was petrified. I lived my life petrified. Like, oh my God, what if somebody finds out this terrible thing about me? And then I'm like, oh, actually, you know what? I'll just go tell you. What do you want to know? You know, I mean, blah, blah, blah.
So
And
how did this, so you weren't even aware of this event until you were 50.
Yeah.
And it informed a lot of how you behaved. And you
Yeah.
mentioned some of those things, that you're constantly looking for that dopamine hit, you know, whether it was
Yeah.
the feeling from drinking alcohol or having sexual
Yeah.
relations or whatever it was. And then it sounds like you've been through a couple of 12-step programs, or at least one.
No, I have not been through any 12 steps.
Oh, okay.
No, I have been through every step. I mean,
Okay.
I actually went to a 12-step program. I took my son because I caught him drinking, and I'm like, that's it. You're going to AA. I am taking you. I don't know anything about AA, but I mean, this is something about me. I'm totally bold. I don't mind walking in on whatever. I mean, I email the president every day. I'm like, dear Mr. Biden, I've accepted the position of construction czar. Please have a rose garden ceremony because I need the world to know that I'm the only person in the world that's done this. And anyway, so I'm like, in Shelley, you know, and you can use my name whenever you talk to the Corps of Engineers. Here's the guy's phone number. Tell him you talk to Shelley, because he was the gatekeeper to the devastation that the Corps of Engineers does on these construction projects. It is brutal to our country. But with us, everybody has a seat at the table. So I forgot what your question was, but it took me down.
No, I was just trying to think about, like, so when you were 50 is when you had this recall of this really traumatic event from your childhood, and you never even knew it was there, but it had informed a lot of your life experience, a lot of your searching up until you were 50 without you being consciously aware of it.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I think it was so deep in my subconscious, I just didn't have language around it.
Right.
It was just like this thing. I had these memories, but there was no language that could describe it. It was because of the brutal way that my family managed it. I was the one that got beat. I mean, I was the one, because I obviously had done something to let him think that he could do that to me.
Wow.
It's a problem. It's a problem. But so, like, turning that around, I mean, most families would be like, I'm going to kill somebody. But this guy.
So just to make sure I understand. So when you didn't know you had this memory until you were 50. So your family, that was their response when you were 50?
No. When I was a little girl.
Okay. So you didn't know what it was, but you were acting out as a little girl somehow. Yeah. And then people said, well, it must be your fault that you're acting out.
Exactly. I was the problem. And Taylor Swift wrote a song about it. I'm like, I love her. I'm the problem. It's me. Yeah, I'm the problem. I mean, I can sit in these meetings, these huge meetings, like I'm going to New York next week for a $19 billion tunnel project. And I'm sitting with these mega companies. I walk in the room and they're like, she knows what's going on. Yeah, I sure do. And you need to sit down, because it's not your money that you're spending, it's the taxpayers' money. So this is what you're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. If you don't like it, go get another job. I mean, these are our taxpayers' money. That these federal projects are just burning through. And it's like,
Uh,
well, our taxes are going up because we have to fund when we build a new bridge or when we build a dam or
yeah, and we
whatever.
fund it 2 or 3 times what it needs to be because of the
Yeah.
mistakes and the problems and the
Well,
delays.
no, it's because nothing is organized. There's no custodian. There's no fiduciary to the documentation. It's just like this kind of free for all. Well, we don't know what happened, or we're going to make up a story about what happened. Our technology says this is what happened at this time, at this date. This is who's responsible for it, and here's what they did.
No,
Don't
that's
you think that
awesome. That's
makes
awesome. And it
kind of sense?
obviously is something that's so desperately needed in this space. And I feel
Yeah.
like for your business, I mean, literally it feels like the sky's the limit. I mean, because every project needs that information,
Yeah,
to do well, whether I might get it just for building a house,
exactly. Well, and what's so funny, some of the people like San Antonio International Airport's building a new terminal. And so anyway, the owner said, hey, you need to interview Shelley. You need her to come down. So I fly down to San Antonio. There's an owner's rep. That's the gig now. We'll have an owner's rep. The owner's rep's in the same bag of tricks as everyone else. His final payment is based on your final budget. So anyway, so the owners are in the room with this.
So he's making a percentage. So he wants the price to be high.
Yeah. And then I walk in the room and they're like, she must be, well, anyway, so I'm in the room and the owner's there and they're like, okay, we have to excuse ourselves because, blah, blah, they'll handle it. And I'm like, okay, this guy had the audacity to think I was not going to go tell the world. He looked at me, he goes, listen, honey, this is not good for us.
This guy's probably 30 years old.
No. He's an old white man. Honey, this is not good for me. And I go, you know what? You look like Pinocchio right now. Your nose is growing and you are arrogant. And you know what? This is not about you, sir. This is about the project. So you need to sit down because I'm going to go tell the world what you just said. And he was like, Haba, who are you going to tell? Any podcast I'm on? I'm going to tell the world. The owner's rep is not the gig. The owner's rep is in the same bag as everyone else. So we're like, no, when everything's organized, guess what? You can have an owner's rep, but the owner's going to know now. We just built a new KCI terminal. And the owner, Pat Klein's like, wow, I can make decisions because I had clean
I can see
data.
everything. It's transparent.
Yeah, and it's in a third party's hand. Nobody can manipulate the data. It's like right here.
Right.
Click the button. The 2-second rule applies. If you don't find the information in 2 seconds, you're not able to make a decision on it. So
that's great. No, that's amazing. And I love how you talked about this in our intro that, changing the world through construction. Like there's so many ways you can do it, but you're showing up authentically as who you are.
yeah.
And that's changing the world. I want to come back on this. And this is what because I'm thinking about like when you obviously had started this business before you were 50, you're 60 now,
Yeah.
but you 50, you had this total realization of what happened to you, this shock and awe
Yeah.
of what happened to you. That gave you a lot of understanding. How did that inform, like, what did you change? What did that drive in your life at that point? What questions did it bring up? What reflections did you have? Because again, you talked about, your goal, which I love for this podcast, is if I can help one person to not, to get emotional freedom, which I love that what you call it, to get emotional freedom. Yeah. So you went through a process of becoming emotional freedom. What was that process like? And there was a lot of things, obviously, in your business, in your life, like your business, that were already running at 50. But this was a big transition. This is one you bring up as this is the biggest transition that I had. What happened there? What was different the next day, the next week, the next year?
So many things. Well, first of all, having great compassion for myself. I had self-loathing. I hated myself. I could not be pretty enough. I could not be Barbie enough. I could not be perfect enough. I was the villain of my family. So it was just safe to pick on me because, it's Shelley. She'll show up anyway. She still will be kind. But I mean, it's just, my first name was Just. And so I just changed the world. I am just a powerful woman. I am just on a mission. But one of the things I did that was the most powerful thing was my father was a raging alcoholic. And it was the way we managed our lives. Like my dad was just a drunk. So he would drink and then he would rage. And if you were at the end of his rage, it meant a belt. It meant, like he was this brutal man. He was so wounded. He had a traumatic childhood from hell. And the way he managed it was with alcohol. And so anyway, he wasn't in my life for 30 years. When I was 20, 22, I'm like, I will never speak to you again. I literally said the F word to him and I walked out of his life not it meant that I was done emotionally. It just meant I had to remove myself.
Yeah, you were putting some healthy barriers, some healthy boundaries for you.
They were not healthy. I had an emotional band around my neck that the further I got away from him, the more oxygen it took from me. So I moved to Florida. I'm like, I'm out of here. Black sheep is leaving, not even understanding this thing, right? So anyway, my dad, my mom called me. I spent my life trying to be cool. Like, I'm going to show him. I'm going to show all my ex-husbands. Guess what? I got a BMW. Guess what? I got a Mercedes. Guess what? I'm a millionaire. Guess what? I have a 22-karat diamond ring. Guess what? I have a new husband. Guess what? I have 3 amazing children. You don't think they're amazing, but I do. I mean, I was going to prove. Such a devastating way to live your life. There is not a vehicle. There is the people that want destruction for you never will give you the ability to be anything other than that, because you know their secrets. I mean, like, you know where you came from. So anyway, my dad got sick. I got a phone call. I'm sitting in Manhattan at this wine bar, and I had quit drinking beer, but I still drank a little bit of wine, and I'm sitting there being cool. My mom calls, she goes, and my parents had been separated for 15 years. And my mom said, your dad's dying. He has cancer. I'm like, why are you calling me? This is not my problem. You go handle it. He's your husband. And I hang up, and my husband looks over at me. He's like, that doesn't even sound like you. I'm like, who asked you? I'm hungry. I want another glass of wine. Do they have anything for me to eat? Not realizing that I had just triggered this part of my soul.
Right.
So anyway, my husband goes, are you going to call your dad? I'm like, you're an idiot. Okay. I don't know if you know you're an idiot, but you were an idiot. Like, because I hadn't even really told my husband what everything, it was just so raw. It was like, so anyway, long story short, I was watching Joel Osteen the next morning, which I'm on Joel Osteen's call-in radio all the time. If you ever hear anybody from Kansas City, it's me.
It's you.
And Joel's like, it's you, Shelley. I'm like, well, it's me again. Listen, I like to talk about this testimony and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so Joel was talking about being the peacekeeper and whatever. I'm like, oh my God, shut up. So at this time, I'm living in a condo. It's like $750,000. It overlooks the city. It's magnificent. I have all the cars. I have, like, my life to the outside world looks like she is something, right? Well, anyway, I called my dad. I said, where are you? Because he still had the same phone number. I'm like, where are you? He goes, well, I'm in room 522 at North Kansas City Hospital. I'm like, I will be right. So I told my husband, I'm going to go punch him in the freaking mouth. I am not going to take his shit. So anyway, my husband was like, should I go with you? Look, you can ride with me, but I'm going down to go set him straight. And I walked in my dad's hospital room. This will make me cry again. And my dad was this cool-up old man. He was just so powerless. And I was just like, what are you doing here? Well, I'm dying. I have cancer, and I'm really glad to see you, sis. He calls me sis, which is what he called me when I was a little girl. And he reached out his hand, and he grabbed my hand like that stupid picture of, whoever touching creation.
Michelangelo's God and Adam.
Yeah. I'm like, he touched my hand, and the anger from my body just went gone. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because I was going to come beat you up. Now I'm here to say, do you need another blanket? Are you thirsty, Dad? What can I do for you? Do you need a place to stay? Well, anyway, I took 139 days of my life, and I stopped. And I took care of my father as if he was the child of the Most High. And I mean, he had, I don't even know what to say. I became the executor of his estate. I mean, he saw me for what he had missed. And I mean, he had warm blankets. He went into hospice, and I had fudge bars. I took care of my father as if he had never been wounded. And as he died, I was at his like right at his head, and he was dying. And I just whispered in his ear, I'm like, Daddy, you're gonna be okay. I mean, he went to the extreme also. I mean, he sent me roses to say, for all the times I never could say I love you. He sent me these things. He's like, I'm sorry, and I didn't say to him, what are you sorry for?
But he got it though. But he had a change of heart. He did really have a change of heart.
So anyway, so when he died, I said, Dad, do you mind if I bury you in a superhero shirt? He's like, why would you do that? I said, because you became a superhero in my life. You came back and showed me my worthiness. And so anyway, at his funeral, all these people that thought I was this challenged child, and oh God, what is she now? Like, she owns a construction technology company. Obviously it's her husband doing all the work. The family has to have a story. Well, anyway, I'm like, well, I'd like to speak at his funeral. My uncle is a funeral director, and he's like, oh, what is she going to say? I mean,
you're going to tell all the alcoholic stories or.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like, I would like to have a wireless microphone. I would like to speak last. So of course he puts me on the thing to speak first. No microphone. Like, friend, I don't need a microphone. I did not have a speech written. I don't have to ever write know it. So anyway, I stood up and I'm like, you might not know me, but I'm Larry's daughter. I'm the baby of the family. And let me tell you what forgiveness looks like. And I told the story of reconciliation and what it looks like to have a grudge and how forgiveness is the power of the living God. And anyway, I mean, the funeral went down. Like, I mean, people were weeping and crying. And I didn't do it for that reason. I did it to say that there is power in forgiveness. There's power in the ability to be who you are, even though the wound occurred. There's power. And so anyway,
how do you do that? How do you be who you are, even when the wounds have occurred? And how do you do that?
You decide. First of all, you have to have great compassion for yourself, and you have to have the ability to say, you know what? I mean, I can't even tell you how many little children things I've done. And if I wrote a book on just the healing modality, it would be as big as the encyclopedia. I mean, it's like I've done so many things, but including flower essence. I have flower. I mean, if you look at my desk from my perspective, I have like I have 7 pairs of glasses, but I have my favorite pen. I have all my stuff here, but it's like the power to just understand when God made you, he didn't make a mistake. He didn't say, oh, there's a design flaw. No, he's like, you know what? I'm going to make her for a purpose of this. And it's the power of finding what that purpose of this is. And, people are like, well, I want to go, feed the homeless. Well, I feed the homeless, but it's not my job. My job funds the feeding of the homeless. Like we fed 15,000 men. We go out on Saturday mornings with McDonald's dollar biscuits and we find people and just if I can be a hope dealer, if I can deal hope for 2 minutes, because it's powerful, the power to be a hope dealer. So, yeah.
I was writing down the second point now. I forgot what it was. But that's all right. It'll come back to me. No, above what you had said, because you said clearly first is compassion for yourself. Yeah. Right? And then that's the step. Oh, and then to find your purpose, to realize that you're made for a purpose and to find that. Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And I love that about being a hope dealer. Instead of being a drug dealer, right? Be a hope dealer. Right. Yeah, and quite frankly, it's sort of is a little bit one or the other in a sense in life, right? We either, I was doing this meditation camp a while back where they said you have 2 choices in life. You either meditate or you medicate. Yeah. Right. And there's so much. I mean, we were talking about this a little bit off the air, if you will, ahead of time, right? There's so much that is, I want a pill that's going to fix me, or I want alcohol that's going to fix me, or in my case, I want to go eat something that's going to make me feel better. Right. Yeah. Instead of doing the work, instead of realizing I'm made for a purpose and living into that purpose and becoming a hope dealer, instead of whether it's illicit drugs or over-the-counter ones or prescribed ones, right?
Well, I think over-the-counter drugs are illicit. I mean, now the drug companies are ran for profit only. And if you read about all of the things that happen that are in those drugs, and we like I have a mother-in-law that's 90, she's from Sicily. And if the doctor doesn't give her something, she won't take it. So I'm like, no, Sarah, I brought you blah, blah, blah. And she's like, so now I tell her, well, I actually have a friend that's a doctor. And, because I have these, I have.
And she said this was what you need. And this is.
Yeah. She's like, she calls me Shelley. She's like, okay, Shelley. And I'm like, this will help you. And she just lost 3 of her family members in the last year. I mean, her son, 2 of sons and her husband. And I moved her out of her old house into a new house. And I'm like, Sarah, this is freedom. I had to do some Starbucks refresher drinks. I'm like, here, drink this. She's like, how much is that a cost? It doesn't matter. You have all the money you're ever going to need. Right. So here's what I'm going to do. And I mean, I think all of us, our purpose is to be a hope dealer. Even the drug dealers, they're trying to sell hope.
They are actually.
This is going to make you feel better. No. This is not going to make you feel better. This is a short-term solution to a long-term problem. So like, feel it holy. Okay, go on, feel it holy. My husband and I, we drove to New York for a meeting because we couldn't get a flight. And I mean, we had so much fun driving to New York. How stupid is that? But we went to New York and Florida and Louisiana. I mean, it was just like, I'm like, Dominic, I kind of did this thing. I set all the appointments. I do all the calling. I do all those things. And I'm like, babe, we need to be wherever. And he's like, well, Shelley, and he's gotten past the whole needing the details. I'm like, look, I'm not giving you the details. Just shut up. Give me a ticket. I'm going there. And so anyway, I've done some really crazy things, but I don't care. I'm going to go and have fun.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I was listening to Anthony Malello yesterday. Yeah, his book Awareness and he talked about 3 things, and it made me think of it because you just about named them right now when you were talking, right? So the first one is love those that hate you.
Yes.
Right? Love those that hate you. Second one is befriend and make the outcast feel like they're not alone.
Yes.
Right. And then the third, which I'm gonna miss right now, but it'll come to me in a minute. But I was thinking about that, like, you know, like you're talking about reconciling with your dad, right? And you talked earlier about, you know, the people that, you know, you spent your earlier life before you had this transition to try to prove yourself to people that wanted your destruction at the time, that were not loving you, that didn't see you. And yet you still, like, for some reason wanted to prove yourself to them instead of turning it into, you know, this loving someone that had hated you before. And then and I love the word you use, my father saw me in the ways he never did before. He saw my worthiness.
Yeah, he
right?
did. Yeah.
So I
And
don't
I
know. I
mean,
was just reflecting on that. And so those are a couple of things that came out of this transformation. So compassion for yourself first, and then, you know, realizing, you know, that love is it, finding your purpose, realizing you're here for a purpose. So sort of love for self, and then realizing God didn't make junk, he made you for a purpose, and then finding that purpose and then leaning into that. And if I summed it up right, then your purpose that you feel is to be a hope dealer.
yes.
You know, whether it's in your construction business or if it's in your family, or whether it's dealing with the homeless people on the street, but to be a hope dealer.
Yeah.
And then to try to, so what, I mean, from what you have learned from this transition of understanding what happened to you when you were such a little girl, what would you, if you could give a tool to anybody, any of our listeners, maybe it's to me, maybe it's to some other listener, but if you could give one tool, you've said you've done so much and had so many experiences, but one tool, one practice, one realization that you've had after realizing this early memory and how it affected you and informed your whole life, what would that be? What would be the thing that you would put on every billboard if you could do that?
Well, I mean, we talked about Sarah said earlier, which totally rewires your brain and gets rid of the trauma. You know what I found recently that has been so life-giving? I listen to sleep meditation, and there's this guy named Jason Stevenson, and at night I go to sleep with attracting miracles. And anyway, so he takes me this little exercise, and then I go to sleep, and then all night long he is reprogramming my subconscious experience. So I live with this. I mean, and it's so funny because my husband is anti-experiencing the things I do. Like, he does not understand why I need to go to the chiropractor and go and have my energy level change. I mean, he's like, but go, because I mean, obviously something you're doing is amazing. But do I really need to go? I'm like, shut up, just shut up and go with me. You are going with me. But anyway, so now, unfortunately for him being married to me, his life is transformed, but he listens also at night because he doesn't have a choice, because our room is radiated with nighttime meditation frequencies. I've done sound baths. Literally, I can tell you there's probably not something I don't know about. I'm curious. My number one thing I would say is to become curious.
Interesting. Is that on the wall behind you that I can't see?
No, I think it needs to be, though. I'll have to add another.
I love curiosity. I mean, curiosity is, and you talked
gift.
about, you spent the first half of your life before this transition trying to prove yourself, right? And I'm sure you're familiar with this open mindset versus the closed mindset. I can't remember the author, the lady that studied that and wrote that book right now, but she talks about primarily, like, you can either prove yourself or improve yourself.
Yeah.
And improving yourself comes from curiosity. Right.
Yeah, I love
just
it.
that little speck of curiosity, and like showing up as, the way I think about it now is, God, how can I be a tool for you in this room, in this moment today?
Yes.
Instead of how do I prove myself, which I spent the first, 49 years of my life trying to do. Like, I have to take up space. I have to show that I'm smarter than everybody else. I have to be more successful. I have to be the one speaking. I have to, because I need to prove myself.
Yeah.
Instead of how do I improve myself? How do I improve the situation?
Yeah. Also, I think for me, it was not only proving myself, but allowing for someone else to decide my worth. So
tell me more about that. How did you distinguish that is, and how did you change it?
Yeah. So the husbands in my life, both of them, of course, were alcoholics, like at a level 10. And they were always like, you're just not good. You're just not that smart. Again, the just thing.
The just Shelley.
Yeah. But I brought that to them, like, here, this is a tool you want to use around me, because, I would never accept the fact that I'm the smartest one in the room. I would never, I flunked out of 4 colleges because I went to college. I'm like, wait a minute, what kind of car are they driving? What are you going to teach me? No. See, I don't work that way. So I always got a seat at the table. That was my goal. Like, I started when I was in 4th grade selling used cars and selling houses, because I was the only one that answered the phone in my family. And so on Sundays and Saturday, I would have a notebook with the cars for sale and the open houses my mom was at. And I would answer the phone, "How residence? This is Shelley. May I help you?" And they would say, "I'm calling about whatever." I'm like, "Oh, yes, I can help you." "Well, is there an adult?" "They're already out showing the car. There's 23 of them in the driveway, but what would you like to know about?" "Well, is there any rust on it?" "I don't think so, because I have no idea." "Well, how do I get there?" And every weekend, my dad would sell every one of his cars, but never did he come in and say, did you say that to those people?" He would just be like, "Oh, well, she just likes answering the phone." No, I was the only one in the family that would answer the phone. And so I'm professional at, like, I can get through any gatekeeper. I mean, when I call the White House, they're like, "Oh, it's you again." I'm like, "I know. How many operators do you guys have?" "Well, we talk about you, Shelley." I'm like, "I'm sure you do, because I'm calling you again. Like, hello, I need to meet the president." And I'm bold enough to believe I don't have to have some kind of lobbyist get me a meeting with him. I'm bold enough to believe that he would definitely want a meeting with me. I'm bold enough to believe that when I get there, you're going to give me a cup of coffee. That's what I'm bold enough to believe. So who in the organization is going to want to talk to me? I'm going to save our country trillions of dollars. So who in the organization is that person? They're like, "Well, let me give you an address." I'm like, "I did that last time. I sent mail. I've emailed. So what is the next step? I need to know. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. January the 8th through the 13th. Who do I need to speak to in the White House?" We went to this restaurant. This is hilarious. I got to tell this. I don't know how much time left, but it's so funny. I have a thing. I want to meet Adam Schiff. I just love his presence. I love the way he can orate. I love Adam Schiff. So anyway, we go to this restaurant right by the Capitol, and we're like, you know what? If he's going to be at a restaurant, it would be here. So we go in. We're sitting there, my husband and I, and we're just laughing. We're like, what would we do if we saw him? We'd be like, "Hey, Adam, what's going on? We need to talk to you." Well, anyway, the server came and we said, "We'd like to meet Adam Schiff." And the server said, "He's here." We're like, "No kidding? Okay." So Dominic and I are like, "What do we say?" Oh my God. So up shows the chef, because the guy speaks Spanish, and he heard we wanted to meet the chef. So the chef was there, and he's like, "I own like 6 restaurants. What can I do for you?" We're like, "Well," and we were just like, "We don't want to meet you. We wanted to meet," but anyway, we laughed so hard because we're like, ask anyway. So anyway, it's just so much fun to have that ability to laugh and experience life with joy and compassion. And like, oh my God, when someone whenever we eat at a restaurant, we clean off our own table. Whenever they come to bus our table, all of the glasses are stacked together. Nothing is like they can do one swoop. I mean, it's like, I'm going to be that girl. When I go in the bathroom, I'm going to clean the bathroom. Whenever I'm
leave it a little bit better than you found it.
Yes. When I'm at the airport and I see someone that's struggling, I'm going to stop and say, "Can I carry your suitcase?" Or pushing the wheelchair is really a bad idea because it's really hard. But I've done that. I'm like, I'm going to be that girl. No matter what, I'm going to be kind no matter what I'm going through, because when I do that, it fills my well so full that no. Whenever somebody says to me, "Well, we're not going to use you because, whatever," that no does not define me. Like, who are you? Thank you. No, ask a different question.
Right. And did you, being that girl, did you feel like that was something that also you were, better is not the right word, but I don't come up with something else right now, better at, since you had this realization of what had been driving you? Like, since in the last 10 years, do you feel like it's easier, it's more flowly for you to be that girl, to be kind, to be serving, to be respectful in every situation?
Yes. I mean, like at a 500 times level. I mean, yeah. Oh my God. It has been the most joyous thing in the whole entire world. Yeah. I mean, I'm a hope dealer. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be compassionate. I'm going to be, I don't even know what, but like, don't get in my way. Cause I also have an opposite side. Like when someone tries to stand against me, I'm like, yeah, you probably be safe for you to sit down now, because I'm probably going to walk around you and you're going to be humiliated, because I'm going to tell the story of you being an idiot. Like one of the companies, Burns and McDonald, they had me come in. I built their world headquarters. They're like, "Oh my God, this is so awesome." They came in to the people that can make the decision. And the guy patted me on the shoulder and he said, "Honey, you couldn't handle all my business." And I said, "Remove your hand from my shoulder. First of all, step number 1. And number 2, I will tell the world how you just tried to humiliate me, because it's about you. So go on with yourself, sir."
Yeah. No, but I think
I was the only woman in the room.
Yeah, but it's necessary to be able to also speak, cliche, speak truth to power as well, right? It's very necessary. If being the kind and loving person gives you the strength and gives you the foundation, gives you the centeredness.
Yes.
To be able to then also to speak with power and authority when you need to, and strength. And again, because I love that you've said many times in our conversation, it's not about you to other people,
No.
because you also know it's not about you, right? That you're a vessel, that you're a message, you're this hope dealer, you're
Yes.
living your purpose, but
Yes.
it's not your identity, right?
No.
They can't hurt you because there's nothing about you there's nothing that you value that you put your well-being onto that they can damage.
Yeah. My kids are if you hurt my kids, I won't.
But that's not,
But I mean, other than that, like, they have their own struggles, but let me tell you what, if they come to me and say, hey, blah, 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 I'm going to be like, that was a mistake.
Right.
Do not jack with my children. I mean, my second husband, I have had 3. My third husband's been 22 years. So I do have a track record of.
Hey, that's 3 times the average. So you're doing good already.
And he's my business partner. I mean, like, hello, he's around the corner. He's like, Shelley, you haven't eaten today. So I made you an egg. I'm like, thank you. But he's Italian. But anyway, my second husband left me with my 3 kids, and he took all the furniture and he double dog dared me to succeed. And I'm like, it's probably gonna look bad on you in the Netflix series, but okay. Because I mean, I had no idea what I was gonna do. This was before I had the realization. I still had the addictions, and I got my real estate license, and I sold 43 houses my first year. But I went out at night and rode my bike with my baby, one of my babies, and I became the expert in the neighborhood. And I'm like, well, I saw all the houses in here, even though I had never sold a house. And I was like, I'm the expert. I can figure this out. And of course, now he's sitting back sucking his thumb. I'm sure he hates me with a total vigor of 12. But I mean, like, you should not have done that. You shouldn't have done that. That was a mistake. But it's okay. He'll be fine. He just got a lesson to learn. And number one is don't jack with me. So I'm going to appreciate you, but you probably ought to get out of the way.
Right. Right.
I don't know. Is that a principle I should adhere to? I'm going to. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think it makes sense. I'm thinking about, like, when I've sort through this and tried to boil this down. I feel like the first one that you said, have compassion for yourself, but even before that, I would say, is this awareness. It seems like that so much in your life turned on self-awareness, and really what's driving me, what's, like you said about letting the emotions pass through you, seeing what happened, what was the childhood trauma that's really driving a lot of my unhealthy behavior. But until you find that, it seems like it's almost, from your experience, not quite possible to come to the compassion for yourself, or to realize your deeper purpose, or, to move in these other ways, to be that girl, the kind and loving, not the just Shelley, but that girl that's kind and loving and strong.
If you have those addictions, if you have those tendencies, something happened to you. You didn't come out of the womb going, oh, well, let's go and be a drunk, or wow, let's go and sexualize everything about me, or let's go and fill my lips with fillers so that I can be beautiful, or let's go do something. Something happened to you.
Right.
So the beautiful thing is to have compassion for yourself, as those things are a precursor to understanding what did happen to you.
Okay. So that compassion comes first, and then that can give you the place where you can safely see what it has that's happened.
And be like, you know what? Wow, something had to happen to me for me to feel so inferior that I have to do X or Y or Z, or, I mean, the list is really short. There's only so many things that are possible. So, like, you don't have to adhere to one of them. You can just say, look, I'm going to have compassion for myself. And if I have a family that makes me the villain, look, just it's okay. They're
and let them go.
Yes, they're hurting. I mean, I have this aunt that has just spewed so much hate about me, and I'm just like, you're sending Donald Trump money and you work at Walmart. I mean, there's a problem, okay? But you're going to be fine. But just, you need to find something else to talk about besides Shelley, because I'm going to tell you about it yourself. Like, look, if you want to say something to me, say it to me. Don't tell all my cousins all these lies and all these things. You can tell me. I have a phone. You can call me and say, hey, I heard this about you. And I'll say, that's 100% true. Or no, where is that source coming from? Because that's not true.
Right.
But they know not to call me, because I will tell them, you hurt my feelings, or, I don't see it that way, but it's just safe to make me the villain, because God knows I'm going to say what I think. And I will also be the first one to say, hey, forgive me, I got it wrong.
Sure.
That is really the power. Forgive me, I got it wrong. I screwed up. Yeah.
That's for sure. No, it's, it comes back to me. Like, I really love this compassion for self, hope dealer, and then be that, I like what you said, moving from just Shelley to be that girl. Be that girl that's kind to people, that's strong, that's loving, that cares for others, that shows up and has, human love and care in every interaction. Right.
Yeah. Well, just can mean a lot of things.
Yeah, as well. And then it sounds like you've changed that. You still have the just in your vocabulary, but it means very different. Just a world changer just the most successful transportation technology company on the planet, you know?
Yeah, just, sorry, it's Shelley again. I mean, it's so funny though, because when you take the power out of it, when you take the pain out of it and you replace it with curiosity, like, why is that like that, you know? And I mean, it is just pure joy. I live in a joyous state and I'm going to radiate my joy. And God knows it scares people, but you'll be fine. Maybe you can get addicted to that also, and we could change the world with joy.
Yeah. How do you stay like in that space? How do you expand your joy practice in your life? What does
Oh
that
God,
look like?
if I told you, we'd be on this for
It's
another.
another podcast. We have to do
Yeah,
another
yeah,
one in
yeah.
six
I mean,
months.
I am a go-giver. Like I found this African family from the Congo on accident, and so I didn't know that it was 700 families, and so I'm the catalyst to change for these people that came to Kansas City from the Congo, and I'm like, they came from another galaxy, kind of like me. I came from another galaxy when I realized what happened to me. This galaxy over here to this galaxy over here is like, wow, you know? But I mean, they came looking for the washing river. They live in Kansas City. We have washers and dryers. They wanted a hair dryer to dry their clothes. I'm like, no, we have, I bought them. I'm like, this is how this works. I mean, I've learned so much. So now I'm involved with this church that is the pastors from the DC Congo. I don't even know what DC Congo means, but it feels really very DC-ish. Anyway, and oh my God, it is so powerful.
So a lot of your daily joy practice comes from giving, the go-giver, as you said, that you're really
Oh yeah.
not the go-getter, but the go-giver. How can you make a difference? And it's in all these little areas that we already talked about. Are you stacking the dishes and hand them to the waiter when they come to your table? Are you helping someone in need in the airport? And are you, doing
also
things?
seeing people, like looking at people in their eye, because it's just like, you're going to be okay. That message of looking at someone in the eye and saying, I see you, I have compassion for you. That is probably my biggest gift, is that I do not avoid eye contact. I will look you in the eye. I will see past whatever the challenge is, and I can probably within a moment know exactly what you're going through. I help people rewrite their stories. I mean, like I have an organization called the Courage Coalition, which is a movement of women coming together and telling our stories, because there's only so many really crappy stories. And but when someone says, well, this is how I got through it, here's how you get through it. You don't have to go over and create your own island. This is how you do it.
Right.
So
You don't have
anyway,
to suffer this way for another 25 years.
yeah,
You can work
exactly.
together in
We come
community and come through it
together.
in a year instead
Yeah.
of 25 years.
Yes. And I'm like, you're gonna be okay. So my goal this year is to get back. We do monthly luncheons, and somebody comes and shares, and it's the power of our voices. And like when we collectively stand in the power of this, even though if our voices shake, even though if we cry, even if, whatever, do it anyway.
Right. Absolutely.
It's fine.
Absolutely.
Dry. I mean, my tears dried. I still have a red face right now. But guess what? I don't have a meeting for a couple hours. And if I do, I'll go put some powder on me. I don't know. Who cares?
Yeah, no, it's all right. No, it's amazing. It's amazing, Shelley. I think there's so much inside your story, and I love your energy. I love what you're bringing and how you want to serve. And it's not, I love how you want to serve and you do it on the very most practical daily level, but also in business at the same time. It's like, there doesn't feel like there's any separation to me, or some people, it's very different boxes, or they're like, oh, my life is really about helping others, but they're not also helping themselves or having a business or being successful. And then somehow it sounds really great where how you're mixing it all together in your family, in your community, in your business, but it's all about, in everything, it seems like it's underlined by compassion for yourself and others, and then being a hope dealer. Right. And I love that. I love that words. If listeners want to find out a little bit more about you, is a business website the best place, or where can they find out a little bit more about you, Shelley?
Yeah, I mean, our website's My Smart Plans, and then my personal contact number is on our website.
Okay.
So I don't know how many people actually put the CEO's contact out there,
Not
but
too many.
You better call me. I mean, what is it? What are you suffering from? What is it? I mean, it's so funny because like some of our projects, there's like a party that wants to be rebellious to the system. It's like, oh, well, and you're like, well, actually, it was 242 that you looked at that. So what part don't you understand? Yeah, no, just do the right thing. It's okay to do the right thing. You're going to be fine. It's about a 20% bottom line to the profit of the stakeholders on our project, because no one's looking for
from using the project. They have a 20% improvement in their bottom line.
Yes.
Holy cow, that's huge.
Unless they consider the fact that there is no construction litigation or disputes, and that takes all their profits.
Right, as well.
So,
makes it
like,
easier.
quantify that. Like, I don't know
in
what to
those
tell you.
cases.
We don't quantify peace of mind.
Right.
I don't know what you value that at, but there is no quantification of that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, I'm really inspired by your story. I'm really inspired. I'm really grateful for also the help that I feel like you've given me personally already with some of the ideas and things we've talked about off the air here that I'm going to work with my family and try with my family. And I love your heart. And I encourage people to check out you if they're in the Kansas City area. Check out your website, mysmartplans.com, and reach out to you if they have questions or comments that they want to
Well, we're also
connect.
global, so we're not just in Kansas City. So we do international projects as well. Which I look back, I'm like, wait a second, I'm doing what? Well, that one's in Guam. That one's
Right.
blah blah blah. So yeah, it's all the same problem.
Right.
The
No, absolutely.
documentation,
No matter where it
unorganized,
is, it's the same thing.
yeah.
No, it's really inspiring. Keep it up. Keep being a hope
Thank
dealer,
you.
Shelley. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
I love meeting you.
Yeah, all the
Let me know if
best.
I can help you.
Thank you. I will, Shelley.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Hey, keep me posted too.
I will. I can't wait to hear what action you are taking. Connect with me on LinkedIn or our website, lifeintransition.online, and let me know. Let a friend know too. It could be a huge encouragement to them and keep you on the track. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and it would mean a lot to me if you left a review and shared this episode with a friend. If you want to learn more about me and what I do when I'm not podcasting, please visit me at artblanchford.com. Thank you for listening. Together, let's make the most of life in transition.